Welcome to Your Voice is Your Community. Today, with Broward County Supervisor of Elections, Joe Scott. Hello, and welcome to Your Voice is Your Community. We are very excited to be here in this room at the Voting Equipment Center with the Broward Supervisor of Elections, Joe Scott. Thank you, Supervisor, for allowing us to come here and talk a little bit about things that are very important for our community to know.
Well, hey, Evelyn, we appreciate you coming in and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much. Well, I think one of the questions that the audience may have is, what does the Supervisor of Elections do?
That's a great question. So we are responsible for not only, the obvious part, it's in the name, running all the elections that we have here in Broward County. So that does include our local elections that happen for the city, for our government that's closest to the people. So all of our city elections we're responsible for, but also county, state, federal, all the elections happen in Broward County. But outside of that, we are also responsible for making sure that the voter rolls are up to date, that we're giving people ample opportunity to get registered to vote and update their information to keep their voter information up to date, and that we're making sure that people get removed when, they become ineligible for any reason.
That's wonderful. So if someone just became a citizen or they've been a citizen a long time, but they've never registered to vote, how do they do that, Supervisor?
So, it's very easy now. Here in the state of Florida, we do have online voter registration. So registertodvoteflorida.gov is a website that you can go to get your, online voter registration done. Also, the way the overwhelming majority of folks get registered is at the DHSMV. So if you go in to get yourself a state ID or to get your driver's license, that's a great time as well to go ahead and get registered to vote.
Wonderful, wonderful. And what are the upcoming elections? Probably someone's looking at this and saying, okay, well, I am registered to vote, but I don't know what the next elections are. And we're right now, April 2023. Just want to say this as we're recording this program. And if you want to say something to the audience, Supervisor, you can look at this camera here and let them know, what, they're looking at us right now and they're saying, okay, I want to register. I'm going to register, but when are the next elections?
Yeah, so this is, what we call an off year, which, honestly, this year we have, this is our time to really get prepared. There's this constant change in technology that we're all dealing with in our lives. And we, as an elections office, have to prepare and get ourselves ready for the next election cycle. So the next election we have coming up is going to actually be on March 19th, 2024.
Okay.
So March 19th, 2024 is what's called the Presidential Preference Primary. That'll be the big election, but at the same time, we'll also have several city elections as well.
Okay.
So March of 2024 is an important time for everybody to pay attention, see if your city has an election going on, and if you would like to participate. Let me tell you what that Presidential Preference Primary is all about. Basically, that's the opportunity within the political parties for both Republicans and Democrats, as well as any minor parties that may need to have a primary. March 19th will be the date for that election to happen, so that the parties can decide who their nominee will be for the fall, for the election that's going to happen in November.
Great. So in that case, if there's someone that's no party affiliation, they might not be able to vote for the presidential primary, but they will vote for other.
Yeah. If their city is having an election at the same time, then they will be able to vote in that city election. If you are registered with a party and your party is having a primary, then you will have that. It'll be all on the same ballot. So you can show up, you can vote in that presidential preference primary as well as in your city primary or your city election, and it'll all be right there on the same ballot.
Great. And then voters will see the primary election and then the general election, correct?
Right. Well, there's actually one more. So after March, there's an election in August, which is August 20th.
Okay.
So August 20th is also a primary election. August 20th it includes both your party primary elections as well as several nonpartisan races as well.
Okay.
So you'll have, in terms of nonpartisan races, that people, if you're not registered with a party or if you're registered with a minor party, You can vote for judges as well as school board members. So the judges and the school board members will be on that ballot in August. Also, your primary elections for state and local offices that are partisan, sort of the county level offices, as well as the state level offices that are partisan, congressional races, U.S. Senate. There's a U.S. Senate race that'll be on the ballot in 2024. All of your members of Congress are running again. All of your state reps are running again. Half of the state Senate is running. Half of your county commissioners are running. So there's a lot of people who are on that ballot. And I'd also like to mention that, that August election is one of the most important. When you think about government that's closer to the people, you're thinking about your school board, you're thinking about your judges. These are critical roles, and those races get decided in August. Overwhelmingly, they get decided in August. And in your primary races, your many of those primary races, depending on the demographics of those districts, the primary race is the more decisive election. So I just say that to make sure people know, don't sleep on that August. That August election is so important. So many important decisions are made in August.
Wonderful.
So that's August 20th, 2024. Go ahead and mark the calendar.
Okay.
Make sure that you vote in that election, because that's a big one.
You heard the supervisor about that. I think that that's amazing information, because it just shows that we can become involved civically in so many different elections. It's really great that the community has this information early. And actually, I have a question, because I like to vote by mail, Supervisor. And I want to know, because I heard that there's a situation happening, that something changed in December where I need to possibly register again to vote by mail?
That's
Is that
correct.
The case?
So there is a new state law that basically requires us, that only makes the vote by mail registration good for that term. So for that election cycle, so an election cycle which basically ends after the general election that happens in November of an even number year.
Okay.
Right? So if you just imagine, because this day, we make things complicated in Florida sometimes. So most people say, oh, it's good for 2 years. It's not exactly good for 2 years. If you went and signed up for vote by mail last October, it already expired.
Oh.
But if you did it yesterday, if you've done it in the year 2023, it's good until December of 2024.
December of 2024.
Right, so it basically is for a 2-year period. But if you sign up for vote by mail and you pick all elections during that time, which I recommend everybody do, when you go to sign up for vote by mail, you go and you say, I want all elections. So the reason it's important to say all elections is that if there is a special election that pops up during that time, if somebody were to pass away or resign from office or anything along those lines and we have a special election, you'll automatically get a ballot. Even if you didn't hear anything about it, you'll get a ballot in the mail and you'll be able to participate in that election.
That's wonderful.
So you pick all elections and you will get a ballot in the mail for every election. You are not limited to voting by mail. Okay? You can choose not to vote by mail. Just don't vote more than once. But don't vote. You can choose to not vote by mail and to go in and vote in person. You're not giving up your right to vote in person by requesting a vote by mail ballot.
Wonderful.
So I encourage everybody to just go ahead and do it.
Just go ahead and do it. And I think that's great, because like you said, no matter the information, the Supervisor of Elections of Broward County does a good job informing the community on when elections are happening. But it's also great to say, hey, there's a little reminder that comes in saying, hey, like you said, there's a special election. Okay, this is really important to me. There's something happening for the school board or whatever the situation is, and I want to become involved. I want to be part of the decision of who we select to be in that position. So I think that's really great. I understand, since we're in April 2023, that something really exciting is happening here in the office that's been happening for a long time, that has to do with the civic involvement of high school students. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
That's right. Yeah, we're very excited about our high school voter registration drive that is taking place right now. We're actually, as we're sitting here today, we're at 3 different high schools getting students. We're at 3 different high schools today getting students registered to vote. So one thing a lot of folks don't realize, although you cannot vote until you turn 18, you can get pre-registered when you're 16 years old.
Wow.
So, most people associate turning 16 with getting their driver's license, but I actually think it's even more exciting to get that voter registration card. So I think that, to me, the fact that you're going ahead and you're signing up, you're getting yourself pre-registered, it's one less thing for you to have to think about during that exciting time in your life when you're turning 18, you're leaving high school, you're going off to whatever's next in life, and one day you're just going to get your voter registration card. It's going to show up in the mail as soon as you turn 18.
Wow, that's
you don't even have to
awesome.
worry about it.
That's awesome.
So we are trying to get as many of these kids pre-registered to vote as possible so that these folks are ready to go as soon as they turn 18.
And Supervisor Scott, are there many of these high school students? I know, you have a very large election process. You're one of the largest elections offices here in the state of Florida, probably the second largest. How is this involvement, let's say, for voting? I'm sure a lot of kids, if getting involved on election day as election workers, that must be a really cool thing too, to participate in the election process on election day, because it's really a lot of people just, people who live here in Broward County, correct?
Yeah, and that's another great point. So as soon as these kids get pre-registered, they are actually eligible to be election workers, which is also an exciting thing.
That's
it's something that we let them know when they pre-register that, hey, if you are interested, if you would like to work at the election and be a poll worker, let us know, because we would love to have you. So we're always recruiting. We're always looking for new people. We love getting young people involved, because anything we can do to get people more civically involved at an earlier age, we know that is what is great for democracy. That helps us build a stronger democracy, and that's what we're all about here.
Awesome, and especially because it's the requisites are being a U.S. citizen, right? U.S. citizen and
resident of Florida.
And resident of Florida. So there you have it. It's an amazing experience. I think that I can't wait for my kids to be that age to have them also be involved in this way, and I think that this is great information for those parents and those kids or the youth that are watching this right now. It's never too early to start getting involved and seeing how things work, and so I really appreciate you sharing all this, Supervisor Scott. On social media, you're doing some new things in social media content. Share a little bit about what the office is doing.
So one thing that's really important to us is that we are communicating with as many people as we possibly can. So one thing that we've started and that will continue throughout the 24 cycle and for the foreseeable future is that we will have all of our social media posts in 3 languages. So we'll be in English, we'll be in Spanish, and we'll be in Haitian Creole. All the information, we put out a lot of great information. So if you're not following us at Broward Votes on social media, follow us at Broward Votes, and you will get that information. And we try to provide content that is easily shareable so folks can share with their friends, share with their communities what's going on, and that information is available in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole.
And you don't need to do that on this is something that's initiative that you're doing, that you say, this is important to me.
Absolutely. It's important to Broward County because we are, we're probably one of the most diverse counties in the whole country. And we have a large population of folks here that speak Spanish. We have a large population of people who speak Haitian Creole, and we want to make sure we're communicating with as many people as we can. We actually have over 100 languages spoken in Broward County, and I'll tell you, if we had the resources to do it, I would try to get it translated into 100 languages if I could, but I know that's probably a little bit beyond our reach at this point, but maybe one day.
One day maybe. But you know what, Supervisor, I think that one thing I applaud of this office is the diversity of the people who work in this office. What I think is important for a lot of people seeing this office, being in this room, that's so important, because this is a place where you sit down with the canvassing board to count votes. On election night, this is where the election results are shown.
But we want to try to make the process as transparent as possible. We don't think it should be a black box. We want to make sure everybody understands what's going on in this building. And one thing I'm really excited about, I don't know how much time we have left, but I could get into it.
You have all the time, Supervisor.
That we have a new building that we are going to be moving into a new building next spring. If construction projects can be a little shaky, so we don't know if we'll stay on schedule. But if all stays on schedule, we'll be in a new building in the spring. And one of the amazing things about this new building is that we have what's called a transparency corridor. So there is a hallway that wraps around the ballot processing area, and there will be all of these big, huge windows that people can look in. There's going to be some signage that explains to people what's going on, and the public will be able to walk through this building without interfering in the process at all, because you're just looking through a window, and you'll be able to see what's going on. I want to make sure, and I want this to be open, especially for young folks, and for people that are going through civics classes in school, doing social studies, learning, that this becomes a destination for a field trip. Let people come and see, so that in the future, if they hear something crazy about how elections work, they say, nope, I know how it works. It works like this. And when they hear some misinformation in the media, they see some misinformation online, they will know better because they've seen it for themselves. So we are, looking forward to opening this up and making it as transparent as possible, making sure people understand how elections work, how their ballots get counted. You'd be surprised at some of the things that I've heard from folks who just really don't know what we do and how we do it, and don't realize how organized and regimented and how much really goes into this.
And I think that's super important to talk about, because I think when you look at the elections office, also I think it's important for people to know that there are people from all political affiliations working here.
Oh, for sure.
And the hat that's placed on here is making sure that every voter is that is eligible to vote can, correct?
For sure. Yeah. No. As far as people who end up working here, and it's always a question about how do we do our training. I'll tell you, one of the things I'm proud of, and one of the things that we'll always keep in place here, is that we tend to pull folks in to be temporary workers, because we go from being a very small organization of about 100 people, and then we swell up to thousands of people, for an election. And one thing that we do is we're just sort of pulling in folks that are available to be temp workers and come work for us. And then out of that temp pool of people, that's who we tend to find the people that, are the hard workers, the people who stick
really
out,
involved,
who seem to be really passionate about the work. And that's who we hire. So you're definitely not, what you're not getting are people that are ideological, right? So you're not getting people who are coming and applying for a job at the elections office because they have some sort of political purpose.
No.
It's usually people that are just workers. So they're people who work and they need a job, and sometimes they're working for a temp agency, and they never even thought about elections before. And then they come in, they start off in the warehouse, or they're doing something for us in IT, and then they start learning about elections, and then they get interested, and then we find other roles for them in the organization, and they start moving up.
And they care about the election process.
And that's really how people end up coming in, and that's how people get involved here. So what you don't find are political people here, because that's just not, that's the process that we go through to bring people in, sort of excludes those folks.
Oh, great.
And it includes people that are more just people who just want to make a difference and work and serve their community.
I love it, Supervisor Scott. I think that's amazing. And I want to know, is there anything else you'd like to add that you want the community, the audience to know about that we haven't covered?
This was pretty good. Okay. Asked a lot of great questions, and I think we covered so much good stuff. I guess I never gave the general election date, which is November 5th.
Okay.
So, we talked a lot, but that's good. I'll tell you this, most people show up for the general election. People know about that one, especially a presidential year. That's our biggest turnout. We don't see as high of a turnout for our city elections, which just baffles me. Because and I'll tell you, in some countries around the world, those city elections are the ones that people really pay attention to. You think about that government that's close to you, that handles your public safety, that your day-to-day life, that's your city election. So, we want people participating there, and then you look at August when you have your judges and your school board members on the ballot. My goodness. We just, in this country, we have a habit of just paying attention to who the president is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But that local school board, wow, they have such an important job.
That is
And-
absolutely
and
true.
we should pay a lot more attention to who those folks are. Our judges, they have such an important role in our community. We should pay attention to them too. you
Yes,
know?
sir.
So I would love to, see that change. And we need to get the word out to folks that, hey, pay attention to these other elections.
Exactly, and that's exactly why we're here. That's why we think this is important, because you have given our audience and this community a lot of information to think about, to become active on, of, if you are a U.S. citizen and you are not registered to vote, please register, browardvotes.gov. And it has been such a great honor to have our Supervisor of Elections of Broward County, Joe Scott, with us today. In your voice is your community. Thank you so much for the invitation to this great place, and thank you for continuing to do this great work to ensure that every eligible voter is able to vote. Thank you.
Hey, Evelyn, it's my honor to have you come in and do your podcast with me. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Supervisor.